Okay, we have covered the design reviews. We're heading to standards. Okay, quality standards. These are basically these quality standards. All they do is basically ensure that the minimum requirements are met, and they are also very important when it comes to safety for everyone, the customer, and also on your side, because there are for some of the things there are legal requirements. So, so for you to achieve all that, you need to adhere to these quality standards. So it's about safety and meeting also the expectations of the customers. So what I was saying is, in some plants, let's say in Essex, because there you are using organic, it's like you're using diesel or petrol in there. You cannot just you make use of any equipment that you come across. Let's say the pumps that you are using, because they have that sort of friction. You need to make sure that those pumps they are like a closed system. Even if there's a spark inside, the ignition or whatever, those flames doesn't come out in such a way that it's going to end up with SX burning. So that's why these quality standards are very important. In fact, they are required, even in the mine there, you are required to go to take your employees through some training. It's a legal requirement. It's good for you to protect yourself also. If anything goes wrong, you will still be fine. Okay, so ISO 9000, that set is focusing on quality management systems. And you also need to obtain what you call a certificate of compliance. You might have come across, I don't know if you work closely with electrical guys, most of the time they are required to have those certificate of compliance, especially when they are working on, let's say, wiring houses. They are required to have that. It's a legal requirement because of the situation of the projects that they work with. It's electrical, so there's a safety concern. So you need to make sure that your things are up to standard. So only so that document is certified by a competent authority that supplied to make sure that you have supplied the goods of the required specification. So there are standards now, such as now the South African Bureau of Standards. So it gives you an approval that this specific product is approved by SABS. And like I was saying, you need to give sometimes training to your guys on quality management, environmental management, all those things. But for this project, for this presentation, we are mainly focusing on quality management. So it's the 9000 series, all these 9001, all those ones, they are falling under that. So you need to make sure that you are complying to that. So sometimes you'll be required to be registered. Some companies are registered with, let's say, SABS like that. So they are required to be registered with SABS so that all your products, we all know that they are fitting to that standard, that quality standard. And this is a typical certificate of compliance. You see signs like this one that you see here. Can you see the cursor on the screen?
So,
You can't see. Okay, on that certificate of compliance, the certificate of compliance that you see, that one. Those two things like that look like a C and the E, the bolded ones, those big ones on the certificate of compliance. These are signs, they represent something. So you need to make sure that your equipment is, for example, what you call intrinsically safe. It means in that equipment, if let's say it catches fire, that fire will not be able to escape out. So like that, even you yourself, you are complying to the standards. I have put up this link that you see at the bottom so that when you read about the Standards Act 18 of 2005 of Namibia, and also the regulations of the South African Bureau of Standards is also on that link also, just for you to familiarize yourself with them. Okay, the tools for quality.
so,
Yes.
so in terms of now, say for instance, adhering to the standards, do they have sort of like an agent? Say for instance, you establish a plant, or you're doing, or you're working on a certain project. You have sort of like someone from their side to sort of come, uh, speculate, for instance, your process, or how does that work now in terms of regulating and
Yeah,
ensuring
sometimes
that you
they
are
do
abiding?
what we call, sometimes they do audits to make sure that you are complying to those standards. And sometimes, let's say now, if something goes wrong, let's say let's say your plant burned, let's say your SX burned down. So when they're going to investigate, they're going to start looking into those things also and make sure. And then whoever, let's say you were the project engineer there, or you are the one in charge, you can actually be held accountable. You can actually go even in prison for that if you're not complying
Oh,
to some of those things.
oh, okay.
Yes, because which means that some of these things are legal binding.
Legal,
So
legal what?
It's a must. It's a must have. You can actually go in prison
Oh,
for that. It's like a law, basically.
oh, okay, okay.
Yes, that's why we say
so
it's an act.
so if you're an electrician and you don't have this certificate of compliance, so how does it affect your work?
It, okay, sometimes it depends. Let's say now, if you are doing your work in, let's say in town here,
Yeah.
you'll be required to provide your certificate of compliance. Let's say even if you are working for an individual, you are required to actually show them that certificate of compliance. But
Mm.
sometimes, sometimes the guys try to be sneaky and then they just do the job. Yeah, you can do the job.
Yeah.
If nothing
Yeah,
happens,
but now that's it. Now, how do you get it? Like, do you write a test, or is it like just something that you go for a workshop and then you get it? Or
yes, yes, it's more of like workshop. You go for training, they train you for some time, you write some tests, and then they
mm,
approve, you write some tests, and I think some practicals also to show you the things.
okay.
And then after that, you are given that certificate.
Mm.
For electrical, they have like this. Remember this wiring of houses when they are putting in the those cables,
Yes.
circuit breakers, and all those things. So
Yes.
it's a legal requirement for them to be having that certificate of compliance, and they must show it to you.
Mm.
Even if you find some electrical engineer, you can always ask them, like, you ask them if they have a certificate of compliance.
Mm.
Then like that, before they start installing those things in your house, then they will know that now I'm dealing with people who know what they're doing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but for metallurgy, I have not come across that. Normally, for metallurgy, let's say when you're doing those designs, you are required to have been registered with the engineering council. But sometimes what these guys do is they can actually contract it out. Because, let's say now you don't have that, you're not registered with the engineering council, but let's say one of your colleague is registered. So what you can do is you can just give that person to do that design. You give him like a contract or some sort of tender.
Mm.
Yes, that's why you see whenever they're asking for project engineer, when they are advertising in the newspapers, you will notice that most of the time they are asking that you must be registered with the engineering council.
Mm.
So once you are registered, it opens up a lot of doors for you. I'm not even fully registered yet. I'm still registered as an engineer in training. I don't know, for some reason in the mining industry, very I've only known one person, one metallurgist who is registered with the engineering council, but the rest I don't know. It's like they don't care about those things really.
Is it so? As far as say is concerned, there's only one metallurgical engineer registered with the ECN.
That I know of in Namibia, yes.
Oh, okay. And to the best of your knowledge, or in terms of the the regulations probably that are put in place under the ECN, what are the sort of roles for metallurgical and mining engineers? What is the essence of you being under that body? What are you supposed to do?
I think it's just a recognition that you are registered. You belong to a certain society or to like like there are a lot of other societies, let's say for professionals. Others, let's say others are registered under the, I don't know if it's called the Health Council or the one for health. So doctors, nurses, they are registered under that. The lawyers are having their own. So the engineers are also having their own. So that's it maybe. And you getting that recognition that you can always use yourself, put it down on this that you are a professional engineer. But otherwise, but when it comes to, let's say, mining engineers and metallurgists, sometimes, most of the time, all they do is they are into production most of the time. So for that one, I don't think it's maybe a requirement. It's a major requirement. Only maybe for those who are doing designs. Because remember, the plant is just commissioned, it's just designed and commissioned once, then you guys can run it for the next 20 years, 30 years. So you might not get that chance also to design that plant. And again,
Okay.
the other thing again is that since that there are few metallurgists who are registered, it makes it difficult for you to get registered also because you need to have a referee. You see, when you're going through your training program for a metallurgist, once you graduate, you go through a metallurgist training program. It lasts for around 2 years. Okay, within that training program, you are supposed to be mentored by someone who is registered with the engineering council, so that that person, after let's say 2 to 3 years, that person will write a report. That report is, they call it a referee report. That report will go to the engineering council also, together with your other reports that you have for the things that you have done. I think you are required to have like 2 or 3 of them. Then you send them to the engineering council, and only then maybe you can get registered.
Okay.
But the problem is, who will mentor you if even those who your seniors are not registered?
Exactly. That's just what I was thinking about. But I think it's a very good discussion that we probably ought to start engaging in. But yeah, nonetheless, I appreciate the insight, sir.
Okay, so there are the tools that you can use for your quality control. There is what the first one here that we have here is cause and effect diagram. It's also called the Ishikawa diagram or fishbone. And you guys probably came across it. Did you not?
What's that, sir?
The cause and effect diagram. Have you come across it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Probably, but maybe we're just not quite sure if it was the cause and effect diagram.
Then the flow chart. This is here. You're just mapping the entire process. Check sheet. This is like a checklist that you have. Okay, there's also a Pareto chart diagram. Did you come across it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I've used it also. Histogram. That one is basic. Control chart. Yeah, scatter diagram. Amongst these equipment, I've made use of a Pareto chart number 4, and also a control chart when I was doing my masters, because I've done my masters in terms of current efficiency improvement for electrowinning. I've made use of both Pareto diagram and also the control chart. I've put up some diagrams here also. Okay, so this is a Pareto chart, which you can see here. This is in terms of this is a Pareto chart of titanium investment casting defects. So this one is looking into casting defects. So that's the quality aspects that it's looking into. So it's on the vertical axis, it has defects frequency, and on the horizontal axis, it has a lot of different defects now. Shrinking, porosity, you name them. I'm quite sure you guys are well familiar with some of these things. We've done them in physical metallurgy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then on the secondary vertical axis, you have cumulative percentage here. So how this thing works, it works by the 80-20 rules. What it's saying that 80% effect is caused by 20% of the factors. So let's say 80% is somewhere here for the cumulative percentage.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now I remember.
So these two factors here, shrinking and porosity, cost maybe, let's say, 80% of the effects on defects, something like that. The other one is called the control chart. Okay, so it has a upper control limit, center line, and lower control limit. It works out like that. Okay, this one is a C control chart. And if the point is out of the range, then it's deemed to be out of control. So for that one, you need to develop what we call an out of control action plan, and so that you can bring back this point back into the process. You see, it came back sharply like that. It's because of the reaction that they've implemented. When they implemented some actions here, this point started going back into on track. Okay, and then the other thing you need to do is quality audit. So you need to audit your project again. When you're executing, you need to audit the project and make sure everything is going accordingly. So how you do this is by coming up with by identifying best practices that are implemented. It might be in your organization, or maybe there's some other similar organizations that have implemented that. So you need to develop the best practices. Then you need those best practices. You need to check now if they are being used in your project. And then if they are not being used, you need to share them, whether they are used or not. You need to share those best practices with your team, and then you help your team members so that they can implement those best practices. And then after that, you need to assure the project sponsor that the quality of the project will be of the highest order. And then like that, you make your customer happy. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to touch is now we'll be moving on to project procurement management. Is there perhaps something you guys want to know about quality management?
My side is clear.
So remember again those in terms of risk management, they normally do some trainings. Like for us, we were given training so that you will all be familiar with the risks in your area. And then whenever you're going to carry out projects, you again make sure that it does not, that project that you are working out, it does not compromise on the risk, on the, not the risk, but the quality of the plant products that you're producing. Okay, now let's look at procurement. So most of the project require materials that are coming from outside your company. So those materials, you need to purchase them. So when it comes to purchasing, you're already talking about procurement like that. So you need to order so that you can achieve those objectives of your project. So when you're executing these project requirements, you need to make use of it falls under what you call now your project procurement management. And most importantly, I think one of you once asked if it's when you're dealing with projects, all you do is those technical things. Yeah, sometimes you are required to go through all those. Remember those PMBOK knowledge areas? You need to be familiar with all of them. So you will not just be doing mass balances only. So even if you are a project manager and you are a metallurgist, it does not mean you only be doing metallurgy things. No. So you'll be doing all those things that you saw on the PMBOK knowledge areas, whether it's HR or it's procurement, or whether it's all those things, risk, you name them. Those are the things that you'll be looking after. This is because, for example, here, what they are saying is the project manager should ensure that the ordered materials are delivered on time and they are on budget. Delivered on time and on budget. Those are two constraints of your project already being affected just by by procurement alone. Just imagine now. So you as a project manager will have to make sure that your things are ordered on time. Let's say now for your project, you say you want to make use of a crusher. If you want to make use of a crusher, The question to you is, where will you get that crusher? Do you have the crusher in your plant? Maybe no, maybe yes. Otherwise, if you are ordering it, let's say from abroad, you need to make sure that it will be delivered on time. Okay, what were you saying?
I just wanted to find out, is this now sort of like the department under which logistics people like fall, or is it um, in line with what they do? Or like
Yes.
is
What?
that amount of work of a logistics engineer substituted by, I mean, can it be done by a project manager, or do you need to hire a logistician to sort of do that?
Wait, I'm not getting you. Can is this?
The first question was sort of like, is this where the logistic engineers sort of fall under? Say, for instance, in a mine, obviously, say, for instance, if you need logistics engineers, is it sort of like the department under which they fall? And if yes, um, can is there really a need to have a logistic person if there's a project manager, like in terms of the workload? Is it really a lot that you need to hire someone, or can it be done by the project manager, procurement project manager?
Okay, the first, in terms of the first question, is this where the logistics engineers fall in this department? I think it will depend on the organizational structure that you have. Let's say if you are using a projectized structure, then it means everything you are doing is just projects. The entire organization is just about projects, basically. So it makes it, it means now you can actually allocate one of your project member, or you can have a project engineer who deals with that. But sometimes, again, let's say now at the mine you have guys who are focusing purely on production, and you have a logistics department. They usually call it a supply chain department, or commercial department, which is focusing on just ordering things. They are already ordering things for production. Let's say the reagents that you are using in the plant every day, they are already ordering those ones. But again, on top of that, you might have a small projects department also. So that small project department might handle those these procurement things by themselves, or they can also give these things to logistics people, to that department. So it depends on how the organization is structured. I hope they have answered you. And then
Yes,
the
you did,
second
sir.
question, or your second question now, what let me just make sure I got your second question. I did not get that well.
So the second question was just in terms of the workload, but I think you answered it in the first question in the sense that the question was, in terms of the workload, is it really a necessity for hiring a logistic engineer? And like you said, depending on the organization, obviously, like say for instance the mine, obviously you think that you'll be needing to
Oh,
order a lot of things here and there. So in other words, there will be a need of a logistic professional.
yes, for a mine, there will still be a need for them, because even if there are no more projects, you still need to order things from outside, from suppliers.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Continue. Okay, so there are three main processes involved. Again, for in terms of project management or anything you're doing, you need to plan. That's the first step always. So you have to plan procurement management. You have to conduct procurements. This is more like execution, and then control. Remember, again, for quality, there was plan for quality. There was quality assurance, and then there was quality control also. So it's more or less, they are all in the same line. But here you are saying plan procurement management, conduct procurements, and then finally you control those procurements. So the question is, let's say now you are working on a project on bio-leaching. Let's say now the lab here in NAST is unable to test for those Bacillus ferroxidans, those bacteria that you are checking out. So you can actually say, no, I know MinTech can do this test work. They can test for us those bacteria and see if they are there and what is their concentration. So now you need to to work on your procurement, how you will send the samples to them, all those things, how you will pay them. You need to work on that. Let's say now, if you want to buy equipment, let's say you are working on a mining project, you need to buy those mining equipment, Barrow World equipment. You need to get in touch with them also. No one will get in touch with them for you because you are the one who is the expert, isn't it? Even if there was a procurement department, they might not have a good idea on your bio-leaching project, but only you guys maybe, or unless they have an engineer there maybe. Or maybe you want some reagents, you talk to Solvay, or you talk to Aqua Services, you talk to Heat Exchange, they can supply you with some of those things. Or maybe you want some crushers, or you want some liners, you want some conveyor belts, you conduct metal minerals and wear minerals, they can supply you with all those things. So that is, again, that is your baby. It's for you to handle that one. It's not for other departments. Okay, so when it comes to plan for procurement, there are inputs, tools, and outputs that you need to know there. So it's the same case again with conducting procurements and controlling procurements. Okay, so let's run through planning for procurements quickly. So your inputs into that plan is the project charter. You have already done that in your initiation. And your business documents, this is in terms of your feasibility studies, cost benefit analysis that you've done already. All those documents will come back again. Project documents, organization process assets, all those things will come in. And the tools that you might use are things like expert judgment. It's similar to what we are talking about. You just have a meeting, you discuss the points, and maybe there's some of the experts that will give you some ideas on what to plan for. And you need to plan for data gathering and analysis, and you have meetings after meetings also. And the outputs, the output will be your procurement management plan and the strategy, the bid documents. Remember, you might end up having some. Remember, some of the activities you might not be able to carry them out by yourself. Let's say you are doing a small project at a mine, and then you want to make use of a scanning electron microscope. The question is, does it mean the mine should already buy a scanning electron microscope if you only need to use it to analyze 10 samples? You see? So maybe you might need to procure and maybe get it supplied to you, or maybe you need to send the samples to Intake, or you can send them to BV, you can send them to NAST, whichever you are comfortable with. Oh, okay. And then you need to do to make or buy decisions. You need to decide, should we buy the things or we should just make them at home? And then you update all the documents for your project. And when it comes to conducting procurements, the inputs for conducting the procurements, the inputs are basically outputs from the plan. The outputs from the plan become inputs into conducting procurements. And the tools that you use they are more or less the same again. Expert judgment, advertising, because here you might end up advertising even in the newspaper. You advertise that, no, we have this tender. We want you to build a house for us. We want you to build 1,000 houses, or what is this, NHE or whatever they call it. You see, something like that. And then those companies will start applying for that tender, and then they will get it, and then then you do the rest of those things. So from your conducting procurements, the output will be selecting sellers or suppliers. So you need to select from them who is capable of executing this task. If you want 1,000 houses built in 6 months, will that you need to select now which company is able to give you those houses. Then you need to come up with a contract with them. If there's a need to change anything, you talk to them again. Then you discuss, you show them, you take them through the plan of what needs to be achieved. And if there are any changes, you update again that procurement plan. And then finally, the last one is control procurement. The inputs into control procurement is the output from conduct procurement. So this is it's actually from both conduct procurement and also from plan procurement. So these two feed the third one. The first two they feed the last one, the last procurement stage. So your inputs would be project management plan that you have done that already, the first stage, project documents, the agreements that you have come up with, the procurement documentation, the approved change requests, things that you have changed in the process. Because in this case now, when you are doing your control procurements, you have updated all those documents with new plans. Maybe when you're doing the second meeting, someone came up with another suggestion, you put it in also. Yeah, so you do all that. And again, the tools that you might require again is expert judgment, claims administration, data analysis, inspections, and audits. You're gonna do them again. So remember again, in quality, you've done audits. And again, in procurement, you're gonna have to do audits again. Normally, in the company, you have auditors, internal auditors and external auditors. They can actually help you with that also. Because those guys actually run through the entire organization. They audit everything. And your output from the control procurement stage is a closed procurement work performance information. This is in terms now of the agreements now that you end up having with the customers or the supplier that will be giving you that specific product. So you need to have an agreement. And then again, after that, if there were any changes again, you need to update the project documents again. Yeah, that's it for me. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. Do you guys perhaps have questions so far before maybe we will log in and out?
No, sir.
Okay, but you understand so far?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so in my experience, okay, I will not go to the next slide. We'll go to the next slide when we log in again later. In my experience, what I have observed is that most of the time, engineers tend to be like separated. Like, let's say metallurgists are only focusing on production alone. But I think it's actually good to have an overall exposure on the entire organization. This is why also when I did my metallurgist training program, I have done it at Scorpion. At Scorpion, that training program, if you look at it well, it's like it exposes you to the entire organization. Forget about metallurgy. Metallurgy covers everything about metallurgy, and then it end up going to other departments also. You go spend maybe a week or so. Let's say at HR, you spend another week with the accounting guys. You spend a week at procurement department and commercial. You spend a week with mining engineers. You spend a week with geologists. You spend some time again with, let's say, environmental guys. You see, at the end of the day, you'll be well rounded. You know how the entire organization come together. So even if we are to make you a, let's say, a manager or a general manager one day, you will have a good idea of the entire business. So if all you know is let's say mass balances, yes, that is good. But does it mean you are good enough to run a company? Are you really competent in terms of let's say if we make you a general manager, you do not know what is happening in other departments. See, it becomes difficult for you. That's why you might even end up finding, let's say, a chartered accountant becomes a general manager because they are familiar with their own setup, except maybe metallurgy into technical details. You see? So if you have done metallurgy already, and then maybe you add up another course, maybe into let's say business related course, it makes your your CV even stronger because because of your technical skill, you are already highly skilled. Then, if you add the business acumen, if you sharpen your business acumen, you even be well positioned for those high positions. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's making sense.
Okay, okay, we can.
More experience you have, you get. It's possible for you to get a job more faster if
Yeah,
there's a lot on your CV.
yeah.
Mm.
Okay, we can. Okay, the next we can have a 10 minutes break maybe. How about we come back at 11, 5 past 11, or you want 15 minutes, guys? Okay,
10
let's
minutes
come
is
back 10
okay.
past 11. Is it fine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's fine. I will log out and okay, I will share the other another link again so we can finalize this.